Overnight, I went from being a completely private figure to a publicly humiliated one worldwide. I was patient zero of losing a personal reputation on a global scale almost instantaneously.
That's Monica Lewinsky speaking very candidly in a 2015 TED Talk about becoming the center of a national scandal. She was just 24 years old when the news first broke online back in 1998 about her relationship with then President Bill Clinton. Now, that led to years of harassment on the internet. The experience prompted Lewinsky to join the fight against cyberbullying. Now she's collaborated with anti-bullying groups. In a video you're seeing first on CBS This Morning, it shows how we treat each other online versus in the real world.
Homosexuality is a disease. You're saving humanity by killing yourself.
Out of here right now.
Yeah.
Take a walk.
This woman is dangerous. All Muslims are terrorists.
Yeah. I'm also a terrorist, just so you know.
You're fine. That's really mean. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Monica Lewinsky joins us live and in color here at the table. Monica, good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Gayle.
I remember your TED Talk back in 2015, and I remember thinking, yay, good for you speaking up. And here you are again, 2017. And you always point out that speaking up is never something that you like to do. You're not seeking the spotlight. You're not trying to put yourself in the public eye. But this topic matters to you.
I have sweaty palms right now, so I'm very nervous. This is not always easy.
Don't need to be nervous. You're in good hands here.
Yeah. But this is a very important topic, and as you just saw with the PSA, this is very much about showing the disparity between how we behave online and how we behave offline when we're face to face.
But you described yourself back then as patient zero, because you were cyberbullied before we even knew what cyberbullying was.
We didn't even have a term for cyberbullying or online harassment or even slut shaming.
So what happened to you? We don't have to go into all the details, but
thank you.
Yeah, we don't have to go into all the details, but what happened to you and how you got through it?
Well, I think that back then, it was the nascent days, really, of the internet. We didn't have social media yet, but there were certainly online. There were online websites for news, and there were comment sections and websites on which people could comment. So it became a very new world in which people could communicate their thoughts. And I think we started to see then, and we start to see even more now, what psychologist John Suler calls the online disinhibition effect, where people lose their sense of self in a way because of the anonymity and behind the screen.
So they'll do things they would never do in person.
But to your face, what do they do?
Exactly. You know, what's so interesting to me and why I connect so much with the PSA that we've done and the rest of the campaign is that I realized I couldn't count on one hand how many times people have said cruel and truly hateful things to me online. But when I realized I could count on one, maybe two hands, the number of times that people have actually been cruel to my face. Mm-hmm. And that was really surprising. So that chasm or that disparity and dissonance is really what's at the heart of this campaign of what
and what's amazing about it, too, beyond what you experienced, is that it drives people to suicide.
It does. You know, Charlie, I don't know if you're all aware that we actually now have a new word in our lexicon, which is bullycide, which talks about the people who have died by suicide as a result of bullying. And recent statistics have talked about how I think it's 20% of teen suicides have been related to bullying issues. And you all might have seen, too, that we're at an all-time high in the last 40 years for young girls and people dying by suicide.
So what do we do?
Well, with this campaign, what we are advocating is to click with compassion. And there are three components to that. So the first one is really thinking about, before you post something online, think about what you're clicking. Think before you click. And so what that means is think about the face test. You know, would you say that to someone offline, just as we're sitting here? And if not, then don't post it. Next to that really is that bullying has the kind of the core and what fuels bullying is shame and public humiliation. So clickbait, which we're all pretty familiar with, is also fueled by those same things. So another way to click with compassion is to not click on clickbait that we're seeing, so we can contribute to an algorithm which supports a culture of compassion versus a culture of humiliation.
A large part of the focus, and rightly so, is on children, right? Children at school being cyberbullied, how parents should deal with that. But you talk about 40% of American adults experience some form of cyberbullying as well. How can that be dealt with, and is it different from how we deal with children who are bullied online?
I think, you know, with children, of course, one of the areas of focus right now is something called digital resilience, but I think that that applies to adults as well. Where I think there's a slight difference, we see a little bit less of the violence with children, particularly women and members of the LGBTQ community experience more online violence threats from online harassment. One of the things, and really sort of another part of the Click with Compassion campaign, is about using your click to support someone who's a target of bullying online. It's very, I can relate to this from myriad ways of even hearing from a stranger to show support to a target can actually really shift the situation and make sure that you don't feel alone, which is when some of the worst
kindness
things
of
can
strangers
happen.
really makes a difference at a time like this. You talked
does.
about being bullied when you were in 6th grade, Monica.
Yes.
I mean, and then it just continued. Talk about the difference between 6th grade to what happened to you back in 1998.
Yes, well, I was lucky because the bullying, in a sense, in 6th grade was not as bad as many people have it, but it was certainly scarring for me. And I think what I
Not everybody knew about it either.
And not everybody knew about it, and that's a really big issue, is that there's no border on the internet. So there's kind of no parameter around how many people it feels like are laughing at you. I think what happened later on, back in 1998, you know, was there was no role model, there was no playbook. No one else had gone through a public shaming online like what I had experienced. And so I was very blessed in terms of having an incredible family and friends. And I also heard from a lot of strangers, so which connects really to the other part of the campaign with the hashtag Be Strong emojis, which it's a mouthful, but which came from this experience I had of having gotten letters from strangers. And some you wouldn't want to read on TV, but a lot of them were letters of compassion and support. And that really helped me through. Sometimes that was what got me through a day.
Why did the support of strangers make a difference? And you should know, as you sit here today, you have a lot of people pulling for you, Monica.
Oh, thanks,
you do.
Gayle.
You have a lot of people pulling for you and who are wishing you well. Why did the kindness of strangers matter so much when you had, as you said, a good support team?
You know, I think it comes from, and this might get a little woo-woo, but I think it comes from, sorry.
The technical term.
I think that this kind of comes from our collective cohesiveness, you know, the sort of all oneness, and we are all connected. And I know that we, especially in today's world, we tend to focus so much more on our differences, but we really have so much more in common. And when you hear from a stranger, there's a reminder that you're a human being and deserve some level of dignity.
One of the things that's interesting about you, and I think you may have said this in the TED Talk, is the idea that you were going to insist on a different ending to my story. You were going to change the narrative in terms of where it was going.
Right. Well, I think one of the things which is really important for anybody who is suffering right now from online harassment or cyberbullying or bullying online.
Or even done something that was embarrassing to them.
Exactly, exactly. I think is to know that we can take back our narratives, we can hold on to our narratives, and as you said, we can insist on a different ending to our story. It's not always easy, and I think it can be very scary at times to step out and to try to do that. But I'm incredibly grateful that I've been able to do this the last several years.
Yeah, to Charlie's question, is that part of what this is about, changing the narrative to your story?
I think for me, the focus really is, you know, there were many times over the last 2 decades when I wasn't sure I would make it. And So I can really relate in a way to how a lot of people are feeling in today's world, even though it's for different reasons, and now we have social media. So for me, this sense of being able to use some of my experiences to help other people is in an impactful way. I'm incredibly grateful.
Thank you for coming.
You made it, Monica.
Oh, whew.
Thank you. Made it. And you've opened a national debate, too, as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Best of
much.
luck.
Thank you for
glad
giving
you
time
came.
to this topic.